Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the first week's video. This is for the intermediate brass and flute students. We're going to be looking at, we're going to be talking about rhythm today, specifically dotted rhythms, and even more specifically the dotted quarter note rhythm. We're also going to talk about an augmentation dot, which is this dot here, that affects a note, and we'll talk about exactly how that changes the way you play a certain note. For this video, for this week's lesson, you need your instrument, so your flute, your trombone, your trumpet, whatever. And you'll need your music for the new World Symphony. That's out of this book, the Flexibility Classics. You probably don't have the book, but you should have the music. And that's what it looks like. If you are missing any music, and if you don't have this particular song, it's 2 pages long, but we're just going to be looking at the first page. If you don't have it, send us an email. You can pause this video, which is the cool thing about this format, is you can pause anytime you need to and come back to it later. Go ahead and do that. Send us an email. We'll get you your music. We can email it to you, and you can print it off at home or read it off of your computer or whatever you need to do. But we can get you the music if you don't have it. And if you don't have it right now, just follow along, and I'll have my music up here so you can see what I'm doing. But before we get to the actual music, I want to talk about what these dotted rhythms actually look like. And you can see here I have 4 different dotted rhythms. We've got a dotted quarter note, dotted half note, dotted whole note, and we even have dotted eighth notes. You can have a dotted anything, pretty much. Any note, and you add a dot after it, then it becomes a dotted whatever note. So what do these dots do to rhythm? Let's find out. What are these augmentation dots? They're called augmentation dots because they augment something. And in music, to augment something means to add to it. And that's exactly what these dots do. So if no matter what note you have, whether it's a quarter note or a half note or a whole note, whatever, if you add a dot to the end of it, like we do here, it adds half of the first note's value onto itself. So what does that look like? For a quarter note, if you add a dot to it, an augmentation dot, you get a quarter note plus half of a quarter note, which is an eighth note, and they're tied together. So instead of 1 beat, you have 1.5 beats. Same thing if you have a half note. You take your half note, add a dot onto it, you get a half note plus half of a half note, which is a quarter note. And I know that sounds a little confusing, but if we can just remember this and remember how it works. So instead of having 2 beats, you now have 3 beats. Instead of having 1 beat, you have 1.5 beats. But how do we count these? Because it looks sort of odd and a little bit tricky. So let's talk about how we count these rhythms in a way that makes it easy for us to play them. So first, let's start by looking at this rhythm here. It's not too tricky. It's one that we can all count together. So if we were to say this rhythm and clap the beat underneath it, it would go like this. And 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, right? But what if we took the quarter note and tied it to the first eighth note? Well, let's look. We're not gonna clap on beat 2 because beat 1 is tied over to beat 2. So how does it sound? Well, it sounds like this. Ready? And 1, 2, and 3, 4. Again. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Does that make sense? Let's try that together a couple times. Ready? And 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Again. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Does that make sense? So if we go back to this first sheet, what we have here is a quarter note tied to an eighth note. Well, that's exactly what that is there, which is the same thing as a quarter note with a dot on it. So essentially, this rhythm here is just like this rhythm up here. So, what does this look like in music? Well, if we take that same rhythm, but read it as a dotted rhythm, it'll look like this. Here's 1. 2 is also part of this first note. Here's the and of 2. Here's 3 and 4. So if we see those side by side, we can see how similar they are. In fact, they sound exactly the same, even though they look a little bit different. So in either case, you count 1, 2, and 3, 4, right? So it'll sound ba, 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 ba. Does that make sense? So, and also, if you have questions about any of this stuff, send me or Dr. Greenwood or any of the teachers an email, and they can help you figure things out. And that's what we're here for, even though we're online now. So, let's take a look at this rhythm in our music. And I chose New World Symphony because that's the piece of music that has this the most. And let me show you. Okay, so here's the first page to the New World Symphony. We're just going to be looking at lines 1 and 2. So even if you're playing line 3 or line 4, actually line 3 has the same rhythm at the beginning, but line 4 doesn't. So if you're playing on line 4, just read line 1 or 2. If you can't play it, that's okay, just follow along and I'll show you how it goes. So looking at this very first rhythm, we can see, and this is the alto sax part by the way, but just you can look at your own notes and you'll see the same rhythm. We see that this rhythm here at the very beginning is exactly the same as what we drew out earlier. It's 1 and 3, 4. So if we clap these first two measures, it sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Does that make sense? So this is the same rhythm that we've been dealing with the whole time, but we're going to figure out how we're actually going to learn to play this rhythm. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start here in measure 5, and we're going to play the first measure and then the next measure down below over here. And eventually we're going to move on to this third and fourth measure, but we'll get there, and we're going to just start with the first two. So, and again, we're looking at just lines, either line 1 or line 2, because they have the, well, I guess just line 1 actually. We're just going to look at line 1 because they have the same rhythm the whole time. Okay? So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to clap the pulse and we're going to count the rhythm. So our clapping is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's not going to change. We're going to keep doing that, and then we're going to count the rhythm. So I'll demonstrate and then you follow along, starting in measure 5 right here. So you can follow along, and then I'll jump down here to measure 6. So it'll go like this. Ready? And 1 and 3, 4. 1 and 3, 4. Try that with me. Ready? And 1 and 3, 4. 1 and 3, 4. Again, 1 and 3, 4. Does that make sense? So now we're going to do the opposite. So now we're going to count the pulse. We're just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over again. And we're going to clap the rhythm that's written on the page starting in measure 5. Just the first two measures there. Okay, so watch me first. I'll demonstrate and then we'll do it together. So here's just watching. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's try it together now. Same place. And 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that we're done clapping and we can clap and count these rhythms, we're going to actually start doing something called sizzling. Now sizzling is just like playing, except you don't make any sound. And the goal of this is to practice your part without hearing your part before you actually play it. So the way to sizzle, it's different for each instrument. For me, I play the saxophone, so it would sound and look like this. So I blow air, but not enough to actually to produce any sound. On the brass instruments, so trombone and trumpet, you do a similar thing, but just blow through the mouthpiece instead of buzzing. So don't buzz your lips at all. Just blow through the mouthpiece. So go. And tongue the notes, the rhythms that we have. And also play the notes that you have written. So finger your part on the trumpet or do the slide positions on trombone. For flutes, it's a little bit harder. So what we have to do is you'll take your flute and take it off your lip and hold it out about 2 inches away. That way when you blow, no air will actually go into the tone hole. But you'll still finger your part and you'll blow as if the flute was right on your lip. Okay? So let's do that the first 2 measures starting at measure 5, okay? So at measure 5, I'll count us in and we'll sizzle our part. So finger the notes and blow air, but don't make sound, okay? Or at least don't make the notes sound, okay? Let's try it. Starting at measure 5. 1, 2, 3. Make sense? Let's do it again. This time we're going to do the first 4 measures. So we're going to go on. Starting at 5 again. Ready? Just sizzling. And 1, 2, 3. Off. Okay? Finally, once we're done doing that and we're able to do it, let's play together and let's see how it sounds, see how close we got. If you can't play the A part, go ahead and play, or the A part, the 1 part. Try to play the 2 part, and if you can't play the 2 part, go ahead and play whatever part you were assigned. Let's play starting at measure 5. Ready? I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3. Good, just that much. Okay, let's do that one more time. And then we'll do it again and we'll go on. Okay, first 4 measures, just again, okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's go on. If we can do that much, let's go on. And measure 5 again, and we'll go all the way to 13. And we'll stop there. And then we'll go all the way back to the beginning, and we'll try that. But for right now, 5 to 13. Let's start there. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And notice where I'm breathing. I'll show you on my part. To make this work, you have to take big breaths every time. But essentially what we have are phrases of 4 bars. So that means we should breathe every 4 measures. So here's first measure, second measure, third measure, fourth measure. And then go ahead and write in your breath mark right there. And then we do it again, 1, 2, 3, fourth measure. Now this we already have a rest. So We don't need to write in a breath mark, but I'll do it anyways just to, if you can see that, just to remind ourselves that that's where we're going to breathe. Okay, finally, let's play from the very beginning, the very first measure, all the way to 13 together. And keep in mind those breath marks that we wrote in. Okay? Starting at the top, I'll count us in and we'll play together. 1, 2, 3. Good. That's all we have for this week's video. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know, and I'll respond. I'll be able to help you out. And that's all I have. So thanks, everyone, and I'll see you next week.